councillors, we ready? We'll get started. All right. Oops. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land within the Shire of Chittering, the Ewart and Whadjuk peoples. We would like to pay respect to the elders of the Noongar Nation, past and present, who have walked and cared for the land. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contributions made to this region. I declare the meeting open at 7:02 p.m. And please note, as per Council Resolution 1304/23, this meeting is being live streamed, but the gallery is not in the field of view, so you're lucky. Item 2, record of attendances, apologies, approved leave of absence and announcements. So in attendance we have, we have two apologies. I'll just start with those. We have Councillor Mark Campbell's apology and Councillor Mary Angus's apology. Otherwise, we have 5 members of council present. In terms of the staff, we do have an apology. We have an apology from Mr. Leo Kuta, Executive Manager of Technical Services. But joining us also today is Monique, and she is, I can't read it, her correct title is, and I've got to take my glasses off, Technical Officer, Environmental Health. So, welcome Monique. And we are also joined by Mr. Scott Clayton, the Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jake Whistler, the Executive Manager of Development Services. I think I got everyone. Okay, members of the public, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. No members of the media. So that deals with apologies. Approved leave of absence. Did Councillor Campbell, he had an approved leave of absence, didn't he?
I think he was thinking about it.
No, it's just an apology.
Just an apology, okay. No problems. Announcements. Announcements. Councillors, on the screen you have, you're required to advise your attendances in the role as an elected members. Are there any changes to the attendance list on the screen? Did you get mine? Yep, that looks right. Okay, no changes. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Councillors, are there any disclosures of interest in any matters before council tonight? There are no disclosures of interest. Next item is public question time. Just for the purpose of the gallery, public question time is limited to 15 minutes. Each member of the public is limited to 2 minutes to ask their questions. The questions will be limited to 2 per person, and we request that you state your name and address and then ask your question when we get to that section. So let me do readings first, don't we? Sorry. Yes.
Last week?
Yeah. All right, so we have some questions that have been provided earlier. The first question is PQT010325 by Mr. Clint O'Neill. The question is as follows. Will the rates generated from the Mouchet Industrial Park be sufficient to progress the plans for Lower Chittering Community Centre? And the response is the Chief Executive Officer responded to the question during the agenda forum. However, the rates from the Mouchet Industrial Park have not been taken into consideration for funding the first stage of the development for the Lower Chittering Community Centre. However, the funding will be budgeted in the upcoming financial year. So that was the question. Response to previous public questions. These ones are previous or new? These are new ones. There are nil. Apologies. Response to previous public questions. Nil. Public question time. So we have some public questions. I will read through these and then we'll run into public question time. Let me just.
You can ask his own question and just respond.
Sorry?
Ask his own question and just respond.
So, Clint, do you want to ask your question or do you want me to read your question out?
I'm comfortable with you.
Okay.
You read better than I do.
No worries. Question 1. From Mr Clint O'Neill is PQT020325 from Chittering. Question 1. Do councillors consider it appropriate and consistent with the discharge of their obligations that residents and ratepayers of Lower Chittering should endure further continuing disappointments and lack of tangible progress on the development of the sport and recreation facility in Lower Chittering that first received council endorsement in 2016 and gained competitive federal government grant funding of some 4.71 million in early 2019, Council Resolution 260319. In response to a signed petition of some 362 residents supporting a request for Council's commitment to commence construction of the facility as soon as possible, that was July 2019, a response was provided that Council and the Shire would use its best endeavours for that to occur. And the response to that question is, since the 2019 and 2020 resolutions referred to in the question, a reference group was established to engage the community on their requirements. The design was finalised, with Council adopting the design on 20th July 2022. The successful grant that was returned by the Shire was from the now defunct Building Better Regions program. Subsequently, a grant application was submitted to the Growing Regions program to fund the building, but the Shire was unsuccessful in securing the grant. Council has consistently made every endeavour to find a way to deliver a facility at Lower Chittering. The latest effort is aimed to address the needs of the community whilst we continue to seek financial assistance for the design facility. The proposed hub will not encroach on any of the footprint for the design facility. It is a measure to ensure we deliver a solution to the community that is affordable and can be delivered in a relatively short time frame. Question 2. How does the officer recommendation put to Council, being subject to a number of maybe decisions by third parties, demonstrate Council's best endeavour commitment to any works on the site being commenced in the near future or at all? The response is, Council has been fully briefed on the likely timeframes to deliver this project. Council remains fully committed to delivering a project on this site, and works will commence as soon as practical should Council agree with the officer's recommendation that's in tonight's, or the future officer's recommendation. To fund the development, a loan must be raised. The Local Government Act of 1995 requires public notification of the intention to borrow. Therefore, the item in tonight's agenda requests in principle support for the project, so the community can be gauged on the appetite for the Shire to raise a loan. Following the advertising period, Council will be presented with a further item to consider community feedback and, if positive, to formalise commitment to this project. If Council approves for this stage to commence, the necessary regulatory requirements will be fulfilled at the prescribed timeframes. Question 3. Taking into consideration that both the Shire and community of Chittering determined the highest priority use of the parcel of land was for a fully operational multi-purpose senior AFL-sized oval with lighting, with cost being independently quantity surveyed at some $900,000. CEO report CEO 010722. It is now time for Council to approve the Shire's commencement of works on the site, inclusive of the removal of material and waste stored on the site, utilising reserve funds in the Shire's Recreation Development Reserve until the Council has had the opportunity to make provision for completion of the oval development in its 25-26 budget deliberations. In support of commencing work on the oval, at the Council meeting 20th July 2022, the CEO provided advice that the sum of $1.5 million had been set aside in the 23-24 budget for the Mouchet AFL-sized overflow oval to be located in Lower Chittering. Whether those funds have been preserved or otherwise, gaining external funding support for the multi-purpose oval is likely to have a higher prospect of success when compared to gaining external funding support for the construction of a prefab building and car park, more particularly where the existing Lower Chittering facility can adequately accommodate the intended use. The response: Council has taken into account the community's needs as shared through engagements with local groups and is moving forward with a project that will, in part, address the requirements of the Lower Chittering community. In this case, the community identified the building as a key priority, with the design allowing space for an oval or soccer field. This was adopted by Council in 2022. However, only the building and the reflections area indicated in the grant applications. Sorry, I'll read that again. I had the full pages and I've made a mess of that. Let me try that again. However, only the building and the reflections area were included in the grants application, as the building was deemed the most urgent need, as identified by the community group. Council always considers capital projects in the context of long-term financial impact, current economic environment and external funding sources available. This project is no different. Okay, that's those two questions. A few questions. I'll move on to next set of questions, PQ2030325 from Mr Nick Dethridge. Chittering. Question 1. The Chittering Visitor Guide is being reprinted shortly. I understand Shire Office received drafts, PDFs for editing approval. The current edition carries a map which denotes the area at the corner of Chittering and Julimar Roads as camping. Explanatory text and image appear on page 20, marked camping under the heading Camp in the Valley, describing it as Brockman River Rest Area, a free gravel overnight rest area located in the heart of Chittering Valley. Unpowered, suitable for caravans wanting to stay overnight for 24 hours only. See attached PDF. Will the Shire ensure promotion of camping in this area is removed from the 2025 and all future editions of the Chittering Visitor Guide and the Chittering Region Map and associated signage? Response: should Council resolve to approve the Officer's recommendation not to proceed with the dedicating the roadside rest area at Julimar Road, Chittering Road intersection, the appropriate updates to the Shire's Visit Chittering booklet and signage will follow. Apologies, let me just turn that off. Okay, next question. Next question is PQT060325, Mr Nick Dethridge, Chittering. Question 2. Will the Shire reinstate no camping signage and or install signage similar to that employed at Digi Ridge? The response: should Council resolve to approve the Officer's recommendation not to proceed with dedicating the roadside rest area at Julimar Road, Chittering Road intersection, the appropriate updates to the Shire's Visit Chittering booklet and signage will follow. Thank you. So they're the questions received. Are there any questions from the public? Welcome to ask questions. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll move on to item 5, petitions, presentations and deputations. So petitions, there are nil. Presentations, there are nil. And deputations, we have them. So just to give us a bit of outline of deputations, they're not to exceed 5 persons, which is not the case, only which of whom will address Council, not to exceed 10 minutes without agreement of Council. And deputations to focus on agenda items before Council and address the following. They must state their name and address. Do you agree with or object to the Officer's recommendation in the report? And state your reasons for agreeing or objecting to the Officer's recommendations. General guidelines. We have the first deputation is regards to DEP's. The first deputation is numbered DEP 010325 by Sandra and Barbara. I welcome you to come up to the podium, and they're speaking to the Officer's recommendation DS 010325, application for development approval 2178 Lot 28 Chittering Road, Lower Chittering, farm stay accommodation. So welcome. Sandra and Barbara.
I'm Barbara. And I've got a few photos, so, but I don't know how to do this.
So are they printed in hard copy or are they electronic?
And all right. Well, I sent everybody, all of you, an email pointing out what my problem is. But I would like to say that these blocks are, in addition to it, I would like to say that these blocks are part of Land for Wildlife, as CARM has recognized in 1999. Since the blocks are the result of a subdivision of Kyot Mungdan, I don't know whether I pronounce this properly, in 1997, it's fair to say that they are in their biodiversity the same, identical. Aerial photos from 7th of 1st of 97 are exactly the same as more recent ones, minus the houses, of course, on lot 28 and 29. But the biodiversity does not only include the necessary protection of white-tailed black cockatoos, but as I want to show you with my photos all taken around my house, you can see the vast diversity of animals of all descriptions.
So would you like to flick through some photos now
Yeah,
as
now
you go
just
through?
a second.
Yeah,
Frequent visitors to a farmstay with 4 cabins and the associated need of cars will not encourage wildlife. This is also the main reason why I am strongly against dogs here. I would have one myself because I love dogs, but I don't want to be faced with dead animals, and I don't want dogs chasing them. So here we go. So how do I do this?
Will that work from the... I don't think that'll work. We'll just have to... Anna will have to flick through them for you.
Who? You?
Yes.
Yeah, well, if you start with number 1, then I give my comments on it. That's the last one, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's a kid now who decided to have a sleep in front of my front door. Next one. There are 2 bobtails. One tries to convince the other one to mate with him. And that's the same echidna. And another echidna, on a very, very hot day, he had decided to sleep on a bowl with water lilies because it was nice and cool. And it's a male and the female kangaroo. You can see the joy in the female's pouch. And she stopped the male. He was quite aggressive to us. So next one. And it's an owl or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. And it's a red robin. It's monitor, black monitor. And these are rainbow bee eaters. That's the latest edition on that particular, on my blog. Yeah, that's the same one where you can see all the beautiful colors landing on the tree. And it's a bronze wing dove. And it's the same family. The 2 on the right are the parents, and then there are 4 young ones in there. And that's one of the parents and the young one coming out of the nest. They were had dug a nest in a little hill, like probably 10 meters from the house. And it's a black monitor again. It's a black gloved wallaby. And dragonfly. Before we had the bee eaters, we had hundreds of them, but since then they are rather decimated. So obviously it must have ever died. Kangaroo and a joy, or baby or whatever. And this one, I have no idea what it is. I found it one day on the ground, and when I touched it, it was like a normal lizard, quite narrow. And when I touched it, it flared out the sides. I've never seen anything like that. Yeah, and that's the wallaby again. And it's a dew guide. And it's the Saint Guana. He was, at that photo, he was looking inside the sliding door, sort of like, who are you, you know? I felt like that's his idea. They was trying to escape me, run away. That's the two lovebirds again. And that's a black monitor coming off the roof. And it's the black cockatoos, and you see that stick there, with the black cockatoo on top. That is normally a frangipani, but because in summer they all come and use this as a landing spot to get to the water, it's without leaves until about end of January. And that's all of them. And that's, what is it, praying mantis was walking around the table looking at us. And that's bees, they stayed overnight. And same thing, bees. And it's an owl again. And it's a red cockatoo. It's a black cockatoo eating a gum nut. That's a chittering again. And one of the things you should try to avoid is scorpion. One of the big ones. We got very small ones as well. And that's mother and Joey. And one of the frogs up there. And a frog mouse was sheltering in the bush, in the tree. And another snake. And a red robin again. Blue wren, a female, all the silver eyes, and everybody knows this one, that's 28, blue wren again, and a gold. What's gold?
Kookaburra.
Kookaburra, sorry, I went blank. It was a very, very hot day, so he's taking shelter there during the day, and sometimes he jumps up at the bottom next to the house. It's very close to the house. All of this is very, very close to the house. So that's it.
I think you should consider entering that photo with the bird with the wings.
It's beautiful, isn't
That's
it?
beautiful. I think that would, at the Bindoon show, I think that might win that one. That one. That is rare to get something like that, to be honest.
We're about 3 or 4 weeks, or 4 or 5, 6 weeks until, and well, you can imagine we spent all the time sort of with binoculars and watching everybody. In particular, that one where they come out of the ground. Yeah, that one. You know, that was the first time. The other one is either the female or male, I don't know. But they go all the way in, and then a few minutes later they come out, and then all of a sudden you saw the little beak coming out of the hole, and then all of a sudden that thing came out.
That's very nice.
Because they're ground nesters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a
And
ground
apparently
nester.
they got a nest about, the tunnel is about a meter long, and the female, of course, usually, does the digging and the nesting and whatever. But it's so amazing. And just imagine people walking around all the time, they wouldn't be there. You know? So that's my point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Barbara. I'm just speaking on behalf of Barbara as well. You can see she's quite passionate about her property and wildlife, and I've just wanted to address a few technical items that are in the agenda. Barbara actually lives on the southern boundary of the proposed application you're considering tonight at 2180. And I guess the most obvious thing that I want to raise is the apparent risk. As you can see, Barbara is objecting to the proposal. Is the apparent risk of the obvious bushfire. Categorically, the location of the short stay in the surrounding area has been identified by DFS as a non-compliant use. This was in their report. The farm stay is surrounded by extreme hazard. This could not be adequately managed. This is actually a quote that's out of the DFS report. The development of this vulnerable land use does not comply with the intent of element 5 of the guidelines. This was not an actual statement that required rectification. This was actually a statement that the use was just categorically non-compliant. I disagree with the officer's comment within the report that the bushfire risk and the likelihood of which is rare, the consequence is moderate and the risk analysis is low. That's clearly not the case. The significant bushfire management cannot address this, and the significant issue remains that a significant bushfire risk exists. Bushfires do occur between the months of April and October. The recommendation does say that you can only have residents stay there between April and October. DFS actually released a statement. There was an editorial in the paper, this was from last year, on the 1st of March, that they extended their air tank stints in WA to respond to the increased risk of bushfire in autumn, which is the time that you've actually approved this application to go ahead within the so-called colder and wet months. It's obviously changing given our climate change and the impact and the mitigation is very high in terms of what you need to do to mitigate bushfire. DFS Bushfire Causes Report is a report that they release basically in terms of the cause of bushfire that occurs within WA. And the most significant causes are vehicles, cigarettes, outdoor cooking and open fires. These are all things that can still occur during the time that visitors are staying at the property. All supporting the statement by DFS that farm stay is surrounded by extreme hazard and cannot be adequately managed. This causes significant risk and worry to Barbara. So bushfire is definitely a serious risk. Now, fencing. One condition of the regarding fencing, the applicant is required to install suitable fencing along the remainder of the southern boundary, which is the adjacent boundary to Barbara, to restrict patron access to the adjoining property to the satisfaction of the Shire. This condition is very ambiguous and provides little comfort to Barbara. Barbara purchased a property specifically for the rural setting and openness between properties and to allow native vegetation, as the ones you've seen just then, to move about freely. An unknown fence, whether it's a solid fence or what type of fence, we have no clue. Barbara drives along that common boundary daily and is needing to look at this every single day when she comes and goes. The risk of changing the fence to a suburban fence is not acceptable and not supported to her. So basically, given the above, the proposal and conditional mitigation measures do not effectively address the ever-present bushfire risk and will definitely adversely affect Barbara. So I would like you to consider those items when you consider the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. That concludes deputations. We move on to item 6, applications for leave of absence. Council, are there any requests for leave? No requests for leave. We move on to item 7, confirmation of minutes of ordinary meeting of Council, 19th of February 2025. Councillors, you have an officer recommendation to receive the minutes. Can I have, or be confirmed, can I please have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Dewar. Seconder, Councillor Ross, thank you. Councillor Dewar.
Just briefly, the minutes looked concise and accurate, so I'll go along with that one.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? No one. Councillor Dewar, right of reply, required. Councillors, no one speaking against the officer's recommendation. I'll declare carried without dissent, 5-0. Item 8, announcements from the presiding member, being me. There is one. The announcement is that Blue Plains roadworks will commence in the next week. Traffic flow may be disrupted during the works. Traffic management will be in effect throughout the day with normal access overnight and on weekends. Only one lane will be closed at a time for the duration of the month that this project is expected to last. Delays could occur when machines are turning around, and line marking will be carried out once the project is finished. That is the only announcement from me tonight. Item 9, reports. Okay. Development Services, DS010325, application for development approval 2178, Lot 28, Chittering Road, Lower Chittering, farm stay accommodation. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis. Seconder, please. Councillor Ross. Councillor Curtis.
Mr. President, yeah, I support the officer's recommendation. I think it'll be good for the economic development of the Shire. Have these 4 farm stay chalets. There's much more I can say about it. No, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is a very attractive development application for something that would be to the benefit of the Shire. I'm conscious from the briefing papers that we've received that the applicants have gone to quite considerable lengths to endeavour to comply to the best of their ability with the requirements of a fragile site, as we've seen tonight, that really needs to be looked after very carefully and protected. So I'm encouraged by their commitment to doing this project well and their willingness to comply with what's been asked of them. So I'm quite prepared to support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors. Councillor Jones.
Oh, no, sorry. Go back.
Well, I'm not opposed to it, but I did have
fine.
some further comments. Just with regards to like the bushfire safety, it does also have clause 4 in there, which is on any days outside of April to October, that if the bushfire danger rating is very high, that people aren't allowed to stay there, which will address some of those concerns that were raised in the deputation. And I think that it is important that we can offer sustainable ways that people can come and see the more beautiful side of nature, and it will actually encourage people to be more protective of nature and value those animals and other things that make this a great place to live. And I think if people aren't able to see that, then they're going to be less aware of it. And perhaps, biodiversity and other things won't be such a focus of developments going forward. So I'm pleased to see that this proponent on this occasion has actually done a lot of work to make sure that he is doing this in a sustainable way. I mean, that it's substantially scaled back from what was originally proposed, bearing in mind, the location on the land to preserve the more pristine parts of the bushland. And the wildlife corridors and those sort of things, and all the nesting trees. I think that this is actually one of the better applications that we've seen, being very mindful of the nature of the area. So I'm happy to support the officer recommendation to approve this with these conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor, do you have anything to add? Okay, thanks. Sorry?
Go on.
Do you want to speak against?
Yes.
Councillor Ewart.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. President. Although I am pro development in the Shire, and I think tourism is very, very important, obviously, I just see this this development is a huge bushfire risk, even though it's only going to be operated in the cooler months. I still think there's a huge bushfire risk. The whole block, from what I can gather, is bush. And I just think it's a real safety and bushfire risk, so I'm not going to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Okay, my turn now. look, I firstly want to thank the ladies for your deputation earlier. I accept and receive your objections regarding vegetation, biosecurity, general security concerns and other noise. So I do thank you for your deputations. I do support the officer's recommendation. I feel that the applicant has more than adequately addressed concerns from the objection to a satisfactory level, and whilst and there's provisions or conditions within the approval to deal with adverse conditions around bushfires for that period. So I think, as Councillor Hughes mentioned, this is one of the more comprehensive submissions to Council, and I do feel that the proponent has made every reasonable effort to ensure that biodiversity and habitation can occur on the one lot. And I do agree that educating the community on biodiversity can't be achieved by locking them out of biodiversity. They need to be involved. And this property and the farm stays allows people to get up and close with nature without detrimentally affecting the biodiversity of the area. So I support the officer's recommendation. Councillor, who was the mover? Councillor Curtis, you were the mover.
I have nothing more to add, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Okay, Councillor, all councillors have spoken to the matter. I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried 4-1. Thank you. The next item of business is DS02-0325, Local Development Plan, Lot 1942, 293 Morley Road, Lower Chittering. Allow them to leave before we continue. All right, so I'll start again. DS02-0325, Local Development Plan, Lot 1942, 293 Morley Road, Lower Chittering. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a move for the officer's recommendation? Someone's got to move it. Councillor Hughes, brave soul. Seconder, Councillor Ross, thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. This is another development application that has got a lot of work being put into the situation of the building envelopes to retain a lot of the carnaby forage and breeding trees, and also to ensure runoffs and things are managed in the best way. So I think that I'm happy to support the motion to support this development.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Ross.
Not a lot to add. I think the applicant has gone to considerable effort to lay out the sites as best as possible to preserve what needs preserving there. So I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Speaking for?
I'm in favour of it.
Thank you. That's your say, is it, Councillor Curtis? Thank you. Councillor Dewar, look, I can add nothing further to this. I support the officer's recommendation. There has been a lot of work to get to this point. I think that, as Councillor Hughes and Ross mentioned, that the development plan includes building envelopes, which have been well contemplated to minimise land disturbance. So I think that is good for the environment. Councillor Kylie Hughes, you have right to reply.
Probably the only thing to add is that this already had planning approval. This is just the development plan, which is the situation of the actual lots. So a lot of the other higher up building considerations were already addressed in that application previously.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 5-0. Next item of business is DS 03-0325, proposed roadside rest area, corner of Julimar Road and Chittering Road, Lower Chittering. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross and Councillor Jewell, close second. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has turned out to be a quite interesting process for the Shire to follow, because there are a lot of benefits to trying to establish a suitable rest area, and particularly in the Lower Chittering area where there's nothing suitable at the moment. What became apparent, I think, as the consultation process has got underway, was that this is kind of a much busier corner than a whole lot of people understood prior to this consultation taking place. So a lot of information became apparent that I think we might not have been aware of prior to this site being identified. From my perspective, the things that are most important in taking this site out of consideration, i.e. which is the officer recommendation, I believe it's actually unwise for us ever to develop something like this without toilet facilities at the site. I think it's unreasonable to believe anyone would go somewhere else, particularly on a cold, wet night, for such purposes. And I think having found out that this is a school bus stop, it's quite undesirable that children are unsupervised in an area like this. That places children at risk. So I think that the officer recommendation not to proceed is a sound and wise one, and I think a whole lot of people in that area will be quite relieved to know that it won't be going ahead there. But I do want to commend the officers for doing the investigation, and hope that some other site might be found in the future, particularly in the Lower Chittering area, that would better lend itself to this purpose. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Jewell.
Yeah, I certainly concur with Councillor Ross's thorough commentary there. Just, there's obviously going to be bushfire issues in summer. As Councillor Ross said, there's no toilet facilities, so there'll be some issues there. Dumping of rubbish, interaction with school bus runs and traffic issues. So, yeah, no, I agree that we don't turn that into a little stop-off point down there.
Thank you, Councillor Jewell. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Against the officer's recommendation?
Yes.
Councillor Curtis.
Mr. President, I find it very funny, talk about toilets. All these are recreation vehicles, they all got toilets. Porta potties. You wouldn't go in a caravan if you didn't have a porta potty at least. But most of them got a toilet these days. Now, about the truck route, these, on and on here, I'll have to have a look here. So many feedback from the land owners. Concerns about increased user and traffic in the area. I mean, it's not a busy intersection. I've been there quite a lot of times. There's hardly any cars around during the day. Don't know about night time, but I'd say it'd be a lot less. I mean, then potential campfires. Well, they have these people who do illegal camping have these campfires. So I think these people in caravans are more responsible than somebody illegal camping. And this concerns relating to types of vehicle, trucks. It's not a truck route, it's a tourist route. I mean, I can't work that one out. Interference with existing bus stop. There's plenty of room at that place. You could put about 10 caravans there and still have enough room for a bus to stop there. And then there's across the road there's a vacant lot. We've just got gravel on that. So there's plenty of spaces. damage to surrounding property fences. Well, why would someone in a caravan do that? These picnickers do that. Anyone can do that. What would blame people who want to stay overnight? Lack of bins. Well, we've got the policy that we don't have bins anymore. People take their rubbish home with them. And that's a lot less rubbish around there, isn't there, from what's been going on lately. So I can't see that one. Disturbance of the country serenity by allowing an increase of people in the area. Well, how mean is that? Don't want to let people enjoy what they've got. Oh no, nick off. We don't want you around here. I don't. Oh, outrageous that. I mean, it's not. It's everyone's country. You know, people who live in the city want to get out in the country. And now you've got people who, oh no, don't come around this area. Free-ranging dogs on private property. Well, dogs should be on the lease. That's not people in a caravan. It's only, you know, anyone would be doing that. Cost involved in maintenance. I can't see any much more maintenance involved with out there, what I've seen. What's the other one? Concerns about road safety and dangerous driving on Julimar Road. Well, these 5 people who complained or put in the submission, well, they want to be careful because that Chalice mining, if they ever get off the road, that's their serenity's gone. So they'd be more to them concerned about Chalice than a few caravans staying want to enjoy their serenity as well. Concerns about degradation of the site. Well, about that. So that's the feedback. I mean, every one of those things you can knock on the head. So I can't see how that's. And there's only five of the people there out of 16 wanted to respond to the thing, and I think 2 of them are absent owners anyway. So there's not. And we had a feedback last month about this liquor shop, and we had 130 people sign that.
Keep to the task, Councillor.
So,
Curtis.
you know, there's 5 people out of how many ratepayers we've got? 3,000 ratepayers. So how can 5 people want to control what's going on in the Shire? I mean, that's ridiculous. Now, other shires like Harvey Shire, they got 3 of these roadside stops and through their town sites. In the Shire of Harvey, 2J got these roadside stops. Now that's the best location I can see to have one of these in the Shire of Chittering. And I just can't believe that the economic development, economic benefits is unbelievable. From what I've read, the 9.5 billion has been spent in regional Australia from caravanners. So that's how much money that's around. And there's 34 clubs in Perth, 2,000 members. That might be not many, but there's 1 in 13 people in Perth, or households in Perth have got a caravan. So there's a heap of potential that we can get out of tourism here, and we're spending all this money on other stuff, tourism, and then we don't worry about having the best, you know, where we can make a fortune out of these caravanners. They want to spend all this other money on stupid tourist things.
Councillor
That's all
Curtis.
I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor
I'm
Curtis.
going to support this.
Yeah.
I think you all should support it if you want economic development in the Shire.
So you're against the officer's recommendation, correct? Yeah. All right, councillors. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. I totally disagree with just about everything Councillor Curtis has just had to say. As a caravaner myself, we've stopped there, not as a caravaner, but we've stopped there on our way to 2J, and you just step down towards the river and there is toilet paper, there is rubbish, there is a mountain of stuff that shouldn't be there from people just stopping over and not respecting the surrounding environment. So just because people are doing the wrong thing doesn't mean we should make it okay that they can do the wrong thing. Our job is to make sure that they have appropriate places to stop, and the rest stop is for the purposes of stopping for the driver to have a rest and then continue driving on. It's not a caravan park. It's not like to encourage tourists to come to the area. It is just a means of providing fatigue management for drivers, these 24-hour rest stops. So it doesn't really have any impact on economic development or anything like that from that perspective. Whereas if we have to constantly have our rangers going down there and policing the wrong thing being done, cleaning up, all of the mess that's getting left down there, repairing the waterways. These are all costs that, will be on generations to come. So I think that it's a wise decision to refuse this application, or not an application, just refuse to consider making that a 24-hour rest stop. And I'd like to thank the community that provided some really important feedback, and thank Nick, I'm not sure if he's here, for his questions. I think that was a good catch about the Chittering, what's it called? The Visit Chittering booklet. I think that's important that we, another benefit has been to highlight some of the things that we can also tidy up. So I know on Hip Camp and other things like that, some of them have been mentioning that this is also a camping spot. So it's actually highlighted a lot of issues that we can now resolve. So thanks to those people that provided that quality feedback as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Okay, my turn. I support the officer's recommendation not to proceed with allocating it as a road reserve. We have a transit park in Bindoon. We have facilities in Bindoon. We want camping in the town site at the transit park where from a larger economic development they can contribute to the local economy. There's no contribution to local economy at having caravans, if you like, pull up at that intersection. So there are no facilities there. Ultimately, I think we'd be forced down the path of having to provide facilities, but it still does remain a place for where overnight vehicle stopping is still available, and that won't change. And so some of the I guess the concerns that Councillor Hughes has raised will remain. They're not going to go away, but nevertheless, my view is that we have a transit park and it's in Bindoon, and there's actually there's a stopping one in Wannamal as well. So I think we're adequately covered from the Shire's perspective, and so I support the officer's recommendation not to proceed. I would also like to thank the community who provided feedback and comments, and I think whether you were in favour or against what was proposed, I think you should take comfort in that your council actively pursued community engagement, and that's an important part of an open and transparent local government. So I think I take that as a positive, that the processes and the transparency that we've been striving for a lot of years are manifesting itself in actual actions. So you can see that in the way in which this item has been handled by the staff. So I do thank the staff for that approach. Nothing more to say from me. Back to Councillor Ross as the mover for any
Thanks.
right
Look,
reply.
just a little, Mr. President. I think just to restate that the officer recommendation really is based on the combination of risks that are considered to be unacceptable and also impact on the ambience for residents around that area. For both of those reasons, this is not a good site to use for this purpose. But I think I'd restate the need for us to keep an open mind about other sites, particularly in the south of the Shire, that might be suitable for this in the future. But this is not the right way to go now.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, with all the debate had, I will put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour not to proceed, show of hands. Against? 1. So the officer's recommendation is carried 4-1. Count. Technical services, there are nil items. Corporate services. First item of business is CS010325, list of accounts paid for the period ending 28th of February 2025. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive these list of accounts. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis is the mover. Seconder. Oh, sorry. Councillor Dewar.
Look to the
I might have to...
Change of seats upset you, has it?
It has.
President.
Councillor Dewar is the seconder. Councillor Curtis, you're the mover. You can speak.
I looked at the list of accounts and I didn't see anything that looked out of place.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Dewar.
Yep, looked all fine and clear for me too, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Anyone speaking against? 4. There's nothing I can add, to be honest. So, right of reply, Councillor Curtis.
Nothing to add.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor. If no one is speaking against the officer's recommendation, I'll declare carried without dissent 5-0. Next item of business is CS020325, monthly financial report for the period ending 28th of February 2025. Councillor Ozzy, you have a officer's recommendation to receive the monthly financial report. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross. Sorry. Seconder. Councillor Dewar. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is a routine report that we receive every month. It's, I believe, a very accurate description of the state of play for our finances at this point in the financial year. So I'm pleased for us to receive this.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dewar.
Nothing terribly much different to what Councillor Ross said, and all looks fine to me.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Ross, you have right of reply.
Nothing, thank you.
Required. Councillors, if no one is speaking against the officer's recommendation, I'll declare carried 5-0. Thank you. Next item of business is next section is Chief Executive Officer. First item is CEO 010325, Work Health and Safety Statistic Report, February 2025. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive the report. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Ross. Seconder. I'm happy to second it. Councillor King. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. It's been a fairly quiet, peaceful month in this area, I think. One near miss, which appears to have remained a near miss. Some, I think, helpful training and assessment items listed, like hearing tests, skin checks, dust collection at the Mouchet landfill. Those are very valuable things for the physical well-being of our personnel. So pleased to receive the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. From my side, not much, can't really add anything else other than the report it shows that there's no current workers' compensation claims. There's no current ones. There was one near miss, as Councillor Ross reported on. No medically treated injuries, and no restricted work injuries, and no lost time injuries. So I think that's a good result. for February. So we look forward to that continuing, and we do note the training and assessments that were carried out in February. So we commend the CEO and the staff for maintaining a diligent awareness of work health and safety. So thank you. Anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Ross, right of reply. Okay, councillors, if there's no one speaking against the officer's recommendation, I will declare carried without debate, without dissent. Dissent, 5-0. Next item of business is CEO 020325, Compliance Audit Report. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to adopt the Local Government Compliance Audit Report for the period 1st of July 2024 to 31st of December 2024, and secondly, receive the unconfirmed minutes from the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 12th of March 2025. Can I have a mover for this recommendation? Councillor Hughes by a fingernail. Councillor Hughes, which by default makes Councillor Ross the seconder. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. It was a very good compliance audit report. I believe it was 95 out of 95 items compliance. It's 100% correct. So we should thank the staff for their time and effort working with the auditors, and also council providing our necessary paperwork as well. Other than that, well done again on another excellent report.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think that I agree with what Councillor Hughes has just said, but I think it's also important to stress how important the audit is for us as councillors, because we're not in a position to be looking over the shoulders of officers as they're entering data or as they're doing any of the myriad things that find themselves under scrutiny during an audit. So we rely a great deal on what the information the auditors return to us to know how effective and accurate the financial record keeping is for the Shire. So I'm pleased with the outcome and pleased to receive the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Okay, the only thing I'll add is the audit return returned a very high, very high compliance. I don't think there were any non-compliance or any material issues with the compliance report, and I think it's even slightly better than last year. And we're running out of room to go much higher. I think the last few percent will take a long time to get there. So I congratulate the staff for their work and ensuring that the processes are deployed in the operation of the local government that are required to the standard of the local government. So it's a very good outcome, and I look forward to a slightly higher audit return ranking next year. So, well, if that's at all possible. So congratulations. All right. Councillor Hughes, did you write a reply?
No,
okay.
no requirement.
Councillor, no one is speaking against the officer's recommendation. I'll declare carried without dissent, 5-0. Next item of business is CO 030325, Lower Chittering Stage 1 and 2 project. Councillors, we have an officer's recommendation that by absolute majority, and I might read this, that 1, council in principle support, I'll start that again. 1, gives in principle support for the Lower Chittering Youth and Community Hub Stage 1 project, including the proposed budget of $1.4 million, and 2, in accordance with section 6.2 to of the Local Government Act 1995 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to give local public notice of the Shire's intention to exercise its power to borrow for a loan for the Lower Chittering Youth and Community Hub Stage 1 project as follows, and the lender being the Western Australian Treasury Corporation of an amount up to $1.4 million. Councillors, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross. Seconder? I'm happy to second. Councillor Curtis? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess the recommendation we have in front of us relates to some of the public questions that were tabled earlier this evening, and the responses that were given are relevant to this item. We've had a long and troubled history with respect to the development of the ultimate, if you like, community centre for Lower Chittering. It certainly is, I think, a quite desperate need. We have over 2,000 people living in Lower Chittering, and we do need to provide better facilities for them than we have been able to date. But as the CEO's response earlier indicated, we have not been successful in gaining the significant capital grant that we would need to allow the major project to proceed. And we have become steadily aware that it could take quite some time for that grant to eventuate. In the meantime, we still have 2,000 people in Lower Chittering. So what's proposed is, I think, a very good interim step. We will need to be very clear to the community that this is an interim step. It's a development that can be removed and put somewhere else later when we do have the capacity to do the final project. And what we have before us this evening is to give in principle support for this more minor scale development to take place, which then will enable the CEO to proceed with advertising this proposal to the public, which is a necessary step because it will be supported with grant funding from the Treasury Corporation. So what's important in understanding this officer recommendation is this is a kind of essential starting step in the process. After that consultation process, this item will return to us. It may return to us a few times because of various hurdles that have to be jumped along the way, and various times where council needs to kind of review progress and say, yep, we're happy with this, keep going, or no, there's some issue here and we need to rethink it. So I'm pleased that the CEO has put this proposal together and done the research on it that has been done. I've had the opportunity, along with some fellow councillors, to visit the business that is the builder of these facilities. They're impressive, and I'm confident that they will fill some of the need that we have in Lower Chittering until we're in the position to fill much more of that need. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Curtis.
Mr. President, I'm in favour of this project. Now, can I ask what are we going to do if it's all right to ask this question?
I can ask a question of the CEO.
What are we going to do with the existing hall? And now we're going to have this, so we don't need two.
Thank you, Mr. President. The existing hall for the time being will remain as is until the overall project is completed. Once that is completed, the intention was to demolish it at end of life, but we first have to build a new facility before we can make those decisions.
So,
of course, council can at that point in time decide that there's another use for it.
So when we get this stage one finished and that, then we won't need that existing hall.
Well, I guess at this point, council hasn't made a decision what it's doing with the existing hall, and I guess it'll make its decision at the appropriate time what it does with the hall.
Because we've got so many halls now, we could save us a bit of money to go towards the project, the new stage two, instead of spending our money on. That's all I've got to say. but I'm in support of it.
One clarification.
So the community engagement that was done was based on the Lower Chittering Hall replacement. That does not include this building. Once the hall replacement building has been built, the consideration will be given to what happens to the old hall. But it does not include this building.
I'm in favour of it.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Anyone speaking against? For? Councillor Hughes?
I'm not yet decided if I'm for or against, but the questions I have need answers, which will be provided by doing this further advertising. So I'm in favour of the recommendation before us. This isn't to go ahead with the project, this is just to get further information.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Did you anything?
No.
I support the in-principle support. The officers recommended in-principle support, and I'm yet to be convinced that there's a real need for this. However, I think that the approach put forward with the ability to relocate the facilities should the facilities not be utilised to the full extent, essentially would overcome that as a challenge, in that the cost to relocate the building to another location for where these facilities are ultimately required is a very small cost in the scheme of things. So I think, and again, as it's been pointed out, this is an in-principle support. This is not a commitment for funding. This is simply the allowance to go out to CEO to publicly advertise the project, and the fact that we're seeking to borrow money from the WA Treasury. That being said, there's probably not much more for me to say. Councillor Ross, you have right to reply.
I think nothing more to add, thanks, Mr President.
Okay, councillors, is there anyone speaking against? Well, actually, I'll put this to the vote to make it simple. Councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried 5-0. Next item is CEO 040325, annual meeting of electors, speed limit in Bindoon town site. Councillors, as you're aware, we held the annual general meeting of electors on February 5th, 2025. And this first officer's recommendation relates to a motion that was moved and seconded, and the motion was as follows: request the Shire to contact Main Roads and request the review of speed limits and speed monitoring in the Bindoon town site, assessment of progressive speed limits on the south side of town site. And that was carried 7-0. Okay, so that was the motion, and you have the officer's recommendations and comments further in the officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendations? If you feel I need to go through the recommendations, I'm happy to read them out, but if you're happy to proceed, I'll just look for a mover. Can I have a mover? Councillor Curtis. Seconder, Councillor Ross. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, well, I support the officer's recommendation, but I'm not able to do any good with this main road mob, and they never take any notice of us anyway, but at least we'll try. Good on the CEO doing all this work, main roads, but they promise everything, they never deliver.
Okay, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Ross.
Mr President, I'd like to propose an amendment, please. Move an amendment, if I may.
Certainly.
So the amendment would add an additional point, which would read: request Main Roads WA to consider relocating the 60 km/h speed sign on the southern approach to Bindoon, approximately 200 metres south of its current location, i.e. south of the crest of the hill. So I move that, if I may.
Just need to make a small amendment to that council instructs the CEO, or because council cannot request.
Yes,
Instructs.
request the CEO, thank you. Yep. Request the CEO.
Request or instructs?
Instructs
It
the
should be
CEO to
instructs.
request.
Instructs is a do, request is a less certain.
To request.
To ask Main Roads. Or request,
Main
yep,
Road.
that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. So that amendment reads, instructs the Chief Executive Officer to request Main Roads WA to consider relocating the 60 km/h speed sign on the southern approach to Bindoon approximately 200 metres south of its current location, i.e. south of the crest of the hill. Okay, that's Councillor Ross. You are the mover. Thank you. Can I have a seconder for the officer's for the amendment? Apologies. I think
You go on, mate.
yeah, it's Councillor Jura, the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr President. Anyone who comes into Bindoon from the south side, i.e. probably coming from Perth, will be aware that the 60k sign is over the crest of the hill, and although there's a reduced speed sign on the others on the south side of the crest, you can't see that where the 60 zone actually begins, and I think that increases the risk of people not reducing speed fast enough, most especially the larger vehicles, of which there are hundreds and hundreds every day. So this point was actually raised at the electors' meeting, but sorry, it was raised in discussion after the electors' meeting, so it didn't find its way into a motion from that meeting. But I think, and I know that the CEO has already raised this point with Main Roads, but I think it would be of value to have it as part of a council decision to give it a stronger effect. Thanks, Mr President.
Thank you. Councillor Jura.
Thanks, Mr President. I think basically the sign was put in the wrong place initially. It would have been far better in the location where Councillor Ross has suggested. An extra couple of 100 metres for people to slow down coming into the town is just logical and sensible. There's also a lot of big heavy trucks rolling through here, so if we can slow them down, that might help that. That would be great.
Thank you. Councillor Jura. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hughes.
The amendment?
My apologies, the amendment.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, although I do agree with the sentiment of it, I think that moving the sign would just increase the area that is the 60 kilometre zone without actually there being any, any other trigger for it, like there's not more driveways getting added to the road to make that need to be a longer actual 60 kilometre zone. I think there is enough time for people to slow down. It's already been moved back once, probably 5 or 6 years ago, around about then. I think perhaps another sign on the other side of the hill saying that you're approaching a 60 kilometre would still serve to give more notice that it's coming up. But I think if you make the 60 kilometre zone longer without it looking like it should be a 60 kilometre zone at the start of that, because there's no driveways or anything coming up to it, I think it's just going to encourage people to ignore it more. Because it doesn't look like it's a built-up area yet right at that hill. So I think this would actually encourage people to ignore the 60 kilometre hour zone rather than make it more in their notice. I think where the sign is as you are approaching where you need to be slowing down, because it's where there's driveways and increased people within the road, and you need to be certainly slowing down to go through there. I think moving the speed sign will actually have an adverse effect rather than the intention. I think a sign
Thank you,
on that side.
Hughes. Thank you. Councillors speaking for? Okay. I'll talk to this one. I have a question of the CEO. Has not this question been asked and answered from Main Roads?
It's been asked, it hasn't been answered. It's part of the ongoing feedback I'm waiting for main roads on. So I have asked that, and I've asked for variable speed, and I've asked for the one that's been asked and answered was the permanent camera that's been denied.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't main road, so.
Look, I understand the intent of the amendment. I wholeheartedly support what it stands for, but I think it's actually already being addressed. And we've seen other reports from main roads looking at various pedestrian and speed. So I think the question's already been asked. It's almost, it actually won't serve any purpose other than to put some words on the paper to show that we've asked the question, but the question has already been asked. So I support its intent, but it's already being addressed. I will support the amendment, but it is a little bit after the fact because it's already happening. So, but I don't think it's going to adversely change the outcome of the council resolution anyway. So I'll support the amendment. Councillor Ross, you have got a reply if necessary.
Thanks, Mr. President. I understand the point you've just made that this has already been raised with Main Roads by the CEO. I think it may strengthen her case if it's part of a council decision that she can report to Main Roads that this is the view of council representing the people of particularly Bindoon in this case. The comment Councillor Hughes made about the 60 sign having been moved south probably 4 or 5 years ago now, my understanding of that at the time was that it was a direct response to the development of the Bindoon Vista estate, which was undergoing quite rapid development at that period. So it became a safety issue to move the 60 to where it currently is because of the amount of traffic turning in and out of Bindoon Vista. But I think this would improve. I quite liked Councillor Dewar's words that it's really about a sign that's in the wrong place, and things would be safer and clearer if it was on the other side of the hill. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Okay, that is the amendment we have on the screen. I'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? Against? Thank you. Carried 4-1. Councillor Ross, we're back to the substantive motion. Anything further to add?
I guess really a lot of it's already been said, that these are things that are of concern to our community, particularly the residents of Bindoon and probably further north than that. I suspect we're going to be, we need to honour the request of our community at the annual electors meeting, and we need to just remain a thorn in the side of Main Roads for the long term to try and get whatever improvements we can about traffic safety in Bindoon, knowing that it would be a slow and frustrating process, as it already has been, but that doesn't mean we should let it go. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Have you not spoken yet? For, yes. Councillor Dewar.
Again, I agree with what Councillor Ross has said. Anything to make particularly the town site safer for pedestrians, as you can hear the thumping great trucks going through there now. I don't know whether they're doing 60 k's or 80, I had no idea. So, I mean, any measures that we can take or, exert some pressure on Main Roads to make the town and our roads right through the Shire safer, I wholeheartedly agree with.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. My turn. Incidentally, this was a question I asked last month following my meeting at the CRA. So there was a list of actions that the CEO was working on, but that question was on one of those list of actions. It doesn't matter now, it's covered here, but it has been raised in multiple forums, and it will get addressed in the process that's undergoing. But I want to reassure our electors is that we are continuing to advocate for improvements to road safety whether that be speed calming measures, or whether it be pedestrian crossing facilities, or whether it's speed reductions within the town site. And we have been doing it, well, I don't know, this is my nearly 8th year on council, and I think we've been doing it, and I've had 2 years off in between, so I'm very certain that we've been doing it for the last 10 years, and we're continuing to do it, and main roads is a bit of a beast to deal with. So, but we are making progress, and we will get an outcome at some point, and well then, if that's not to the satisfaction of the community, we'll continue to advocate on behalf to get a better outcome. So I do support the officer's recommendation. With that being said, that is everyone speaking for and against, I'll put the substantive motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 5-0, thank you. Next item of business, CO 05-0325, annual meeting of electors, maximum stone chip size for roadworks. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation that acknowledges the electors' decision, which was as follows. That the Shire of Chittering adopt a 10mm maximum stone chip size for roadworks in the Shire, and request that Main Roads WA comply with this maximum stone chip size. Councillors, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation that to recognises recognises that Main Roads WA determines road servicing standards, which limits the Shire's ability to mandate changes, and 3, notes that the Shire already prioritises 10mm aggregate where feasible for local roads, and 4, resolves to forward community concerns to MRWA but make no further action given jurisdictional and financial constraints. That is the full officer recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis. Seconder. Oh, I guess I'll do it. Councillor King. Councillor Curtis.
Nothing to add. I accept the officer's recommendation. Gravel in.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Whilst I understand, I guess, the motives behind the motion, it does remain to be the standards that are set by Main Roads WA, and in fact everyone needs to comply when constructing roads to Main Road WA standards, for which we have no jurisdictional influence over them setting their standards. So it's something we can't change, but we could, and we already deal with the maximum aggregate size when we're doing our local roads. So I think that's well intentioned, but not something we can action. Councillor, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Make any comments? You have right to reply, Councillor Curtis.
Can I just ask something? What the is the Blue Plains Out Road or Main Roads Road?
Yes. Local government road.
Sorry?
Local government road. Yeah.
Our
Chittering,
road.
yeah.
And what's Main Roads got anything to do with this thing?
This, for clarity, the resolution or the motion that was put forward is that the Shire of Chittering adopt a 10mm maximum stone chip to roadworks, and request that Main Roads WA comply with this maximum stone chip. What this resolution says is that it recognises that the authority is Main Roads WA, right? So Main Roads WA determines the specifications and standards for road servicing, right, for which we have no authority. But it also then notes that the Shire already prioritises maximum 10mm aggregate. And then the last part of that resolves to advise the concerns to Main Roads WA, but we can take no further action because it's not within our jurisdictional authority to do so, nor do we have financial capacity to change from the design. So that's hopefully answered that question.
Yeah.
Thank you, councillor Curtis. I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 5-0. Item 10, reports of committees. COM 01-0325, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes, 12th of March 2025. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to receive the minutes from the Audit and Risk Committee. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Mover, Councillor Ross. I'm sure it's a Councillor Hughes in there somewhere. Oh, I think that is, yeah. That's close enough. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. Not a lot to say at this moment because really we dealt with this a little earlier when we had the previous officer recommendation on the audit issue. So this is simply to receive the minutes of the meeting that we held recently, last week in fact. So it's all very routine.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Hughes.
Yep, that was a true and accurate account of the meeting to my recollection.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Ross, right a reply?
Actually, just one comment for the benefit of the community to explain that we're a council of 7. We consider that the work of the Audit Committee is of sufficient importance that the Audit Committee is 7 of us. It's not a reduced number, it is the entire council that also comprises the Audit Committee. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, I'll put the officer recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 5-0. Thank you. Item 11, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are nil. Item 12, questions from members without notice. Are there any questions from members? Councillor Curtis.
I forgot to put this question before, but I just wondered, where's the Avon Waste Annual Report 23-24? I haven't seen it. Usually comes out.
So can I help you frame that question? Can the CEO forward a copy of the Avon Waste 23-24 annual report?
Yes, I will circulate it once
Have you got one?
I haven't seen it myself.
Yeah, well, I wonder what they've done with it.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
I'll just let the minute take and get that down.
'23-24 annual report. Well, that's a year old. It usually comes out in October.
Okay.
No.
We'll follow it up.
Might be.
We'll follow it up. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Excellent. Item 13, business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are nil. Item 14, meeting closed to the public. I declare the meeting closed at 8:34 p.m.